Hello, this is Kate, the Daily Tarot Girl, and welcome to your weekly tarot card reading. For this week's reading, I am using the Cosmic Tarot, and Norbert Losche is the creator. And this is a deck that I've had for a really long time, and I don't use it very often, but I trimmed my deck. So you'll see I trimmed away the border, the edges. So it looks like a smaller deck than it actually is, but it's a really fascinating deck. So I'm kind of excited to bring it out of retirement and use it for today's reading. So my intention with today's reading is to simply get an overview of some of the themes and some of the upcoming energies for the week ahead, so that you can take advantage and make the most of things coming up. Okay, so we've got 3 cards. Each card is going to represent a different aspect of the week ahead. And I'm joined today by my kitty cat helper. This is Rhea. Rhea doesn't know she's on film. And Rhea is going to be presiding over this reading. I'm just going to zoom in. She's super cute. She's just having a chill morning today. Okay, so let's get into it. So let's start with the first card. So this is the card for the beginning of the week, and we have the Tower. Very, very dramatic. Super dramatic. Okay, so the Tower for the beginning of the week. The Tower represents something that's kind of shocking. It's a shock. It's a surprise. It's something unexpected. It's a departure from the usual script. And I'm just going to zoom in on these cards a little more. So the Tower represents a departure from what is expected, from the usual way of doing things. It can sometimes feel like having the rug ripped out from under you. It can also sometimes feel like tensions are coming to a head and then they just explode and release. Sometimes I will read the Tower as a card of destruction. So something, some sort of structure being destroyed and crumbling. Like an institution, for example. Something that you've always thought of as being this stable thing that you could rely on. And then watching that stable thing you thought you could rely on crumble before your very eyes. That's kind of what the Tower represents. Okay, so what does it mean for us? What is the message for the beginning of the week? So I am struck by a couple of things on this card. First thing is the eye, and I'm actually going to bring this closer so you can really see. So I'm struck by the eye, and it looks like kind of an Egyptian eye, like the Eye of Horus. And instead of a thunder, like normally in the Rider-Waite version of the Tower, there's a thunderbolt that's striking the Tower. There's no thunderbolt in this card. Instead, it's this eye and the rays of the eye, which represent something being revealed and seeing something clearly. And once you see that thing clearly, it falls apart. It's like an illusion. Like once you see an illusion for what it is, it no longer fools you. It's no longer, you don't buy into it anymore. It's no longer an illusion. So I think that the beginning of the week, and I'm still unclear if, I mean, in some ways these cards can represent things happening on the global stage, and then also things happening in our own personal lives in a smaller, more subtle way. So the Tower, in some ways, I see this as sort of representing things that are, happening in the bigger, wider world. But I also like to read the cards as, how can we make the most of this card in our own life? What does it mean for us personally? And I think that beginning of the week is a time for clear seeing. As you look at things clearly and wipe away the illusions, certain things are not going to hold up to scrutiny. So beginning of the week is a time almost to look at things clearly and to not be afraid of having certain things that you always thought of as being sort of a given, to not be afraid of seeing those things kind of melt away, which is easier said than done. The other thing I'm noticing that I want to draw your attention to is the crown. So the crown is in the forefront of this card. It's, quite obvious. It's almost the first thing you sort of notice, and it's upside down and it's falling. And it's this idea of something that was once powerful, maybe something that you once put up on a pedestal or saw as this all-powerful thing, has now fallen in your eyes, and you see things very differently. So yeah, that's what I'm getting from the tower. And I feel like it represents a shaking up of energy, like things are being shaken up. And I think you're going to notice this, perhaps personally, you're noticing a shaking up of certain energies and it's like a reorganization of things, a shaking up and a reorganization of energy. And you might notice this in your personal day-to-day life, or you might also notice this in the bigger, wider scope of things happening, world events. Let's have a look at the middle of the week. So midweek is Wednesday, Thursday-ish, and here we have Queen of Swords. Okay, I feel like my camera isn't picking up the colors very good. I'm just going to turn on a light, see if that helps. I don't know if that makes it better or worse. I think it's maybe a little better. Okay, so Queen of Swords for the middle of the week. Queen of Swords, I love the Queen of Swords, by the way. Queen of Swords is very sharp. She's witty. She's paying attention. She's nobody's fool. And she has both eyes wide open. And she knows how to cut to the chase. And what's kind of funny about this card is in the background, there's these two people making out. I'm just going to bring it closer so you can see. So there's this couple that are making out in the background, and she's just got this expression on her face. And it's almost like she doesn't get distracted by romance or things of that nature. She's just kind of all business. So the Queen of Swords is telling you to keep your wits about you this week and learn the art of discernment. Learning to discern what warrants your full attention and what kinds of things can be just sidelined and cleared. So she has this big sword that she's holding, and she uses that sword to cut cords, energetic cords, to clear a path, to cut away distraction and nonsense, and really get to the heart of the matter, to really get to what is true and what is important. One thing I'll say about the Queen of Swords is she is not easily distracted, and she knows the power of focus, but she's also very gifted at communication. And so I think that there are some messages this week for you about communication. So Queen of Swords always encourages you to communicate in a direct and clear manner. And sometimes it's important to really think about your words and to phrase things in a gentle way. But the Queen of Swords isn't about doing that. So she's saying, no, in fact, right now, what's more important is that you simply speak up and you communicate what needs to be communicated, and that you communicate in a direct, clear way. That is the most important thing. Everything else kind of comes secondary to that. So she's saying, speak your truth this week. Communicate the things that need to be communicated. Say the things that need being said. And exercise your power of focus and discernment, and try not to get distracted by things this week. This week is about paying attention. And I like how we have this big eye that's casting these rays on the tower. And then we have the penetrating gaze of the Queen of Swords, who's looking directly at us. I think that this is really telling and interesting. Okay, let's have a look at the end of the week. So we have the Fool for the end of the week. So Friday, Saturday, Sunday-ish. And it's interesting. We start with the Tower and then we end with the Fool. Now the Tower can be seen as something coming to an end. Like the jig is up, something is revealed, something kind of crumbles, an illusion falls away. And then the Fool is all about a new beginning. And in between those two cards, bridging the gap, is the Queen of Swords, which is all about discernment, speaking your truth, and communication, and communicating in a direct, clear way. So the Fool, let's talk about the Fool. So the Fool, like I said, is all about new beginnings. It's also about optimism and starting fresh. So all the old nonsense is starting to crumble. And the Fool is about building something new and doing things in a new way. And it's also about like optimism and trust and being able to trust in life as you kind of step out of your habitual ways of doing things and move out of your comfort zone a little bit. You have to rely on your intuition more. You have to rely on your ability to trust in the flow of life, in the process of life. You have to really rely on that ability to trust, and to trust that if I just put one foot in front of the other and I listen to my heart and I go in the direction that I'm feeling pulled, that things will unfold in the right way, in the right time, the right opportunities will present themselves, the right people will present themselves. So this is about actually moving away from doing things in the old stuffy way that you maybe have always done them in the past, and moving into a new way of doing things and a new way of interacting with life and a new way of living life, which I know sounds really major. It sounds like a big shift, and it is. It is a big shift. And I love that the Queen of Swords and the Fool are side by side. And they both have very different ways of approaching life. I think of the Fool as being very open, slightly naive, but really wanting to like taste, all the different colors of the rainbow, really get out there and just experience life and engage with people and try new things and explore unexplored realms. Like that is, I think of the Fool as saying yes to life. And the Queen of Swords is not really like that. She's very discerning, maybe even a little bit suspicious. And she has a good head on her shoulders, but she's a little jaded. The Fool is not jaded. So I think it's interesting that they're side by side. And to me, the message is saying you need a little bit of both of these. By mixing these two energies, like the wisdom and the discernment and the level-headedness of the Queen of Swords, combined with the openness and the optimism and the adventurousness of the Fool, is like a really powerful combo. And I know that sounds like a mixed message. It's like, well, which one do I choose? But it's about being able to integrate both of these energies, like be like the Fool, but don't lose your ability to discern and make good judgments. That's kind of the message here. Okay, let's have a look here. Let's have a look at all of them together. They're all turned over, and I think I've said everything, but I'm just gonna look at the symbols on the cards and see if there's anything else that jumps out to me. And notice, like, as I'm looking at these cards, I want you to have a look at them as well. And notice if you are drawn to like one particular card. Like, is there one card that like pulls you in? Is there a particular symbol or an aspect on that card that really speaks to you, that really pulls you in? Just noticing that now as you gaze at these three cards. Okay. So there's nothing else that I want to mention. I think I've mentioned everything. So I'm going to wrap up the reading. But I feel like this is a pretty powerful week. And I feel like maybe I say that every week, but I do feel like there is a lot of power here with the Tower and the Fool. It's almost like there's like a refreshing of energy, like the old crusty ways of doing things, which are represented by the Tower, are collapsing. And in that process, you need to hold on to, the power of discernment and to be able to discern what deserves my attention and what doesn't. As well as being able to discern, what is the truth that I want to speak? What do I want to communicate with others? And then moving towards living life from this Fool perspective, which is about, I think of the Fool as not so much rebuilding your life, but it is about starting things with a blank slate. Like starting over, starting fresh, starting from scratch. So there is that kind of energy with the Fool, which honestly feels kind of fun. And it makes me feel hopeful for the week ahead. So another thing I want to say about the Fool is like, what new projects do you want to start this weekend? What new things do you want to dip your toe into? What new things do you want to explore? How can you get a little bit outside your comfort zone this week? Where if you let your adventurous heart lead the way, and if you paid attention to where you feel drawn and what you want to explore, where would you go? Where would that curiosity take you? Okay, so that has been your weekly tarot card reading, and again, I use the cosmic tarot for this week's reading. And my name is Kate. I'm also known as the Daily Tarot Girl. I'll put my website below if you want to check it out. I've got lots of fun tarot learning resources on there to check out. Oh, and before I go, I want to share with you my two new crystals. So this is a green, what's it called? Blue and brown aragonite. Let's see if I can zoom in here. So it's a very pretty bluey greenish stone. And I also got a beautiful chunk of Lemurian quartz. Now, again, let's zoom in here. So a really pretty chunk of Lemurian quartz. I am a bit of a crystal addict, and I want you to have an excellent week. And my kitty Rhea also wishes you an excellent week. Okay, so thank you so much for watching.